Welcome to another episode of the Jets Afterburners podcast. And your Jets Stand 16, Liam right up there to the left. And again, we're continuing on this amazing journey right now of the off-season health of an NFL fan. Now, our amazing and inspiring guest was literally born into the Jets family. He is the son of the trailblazer, woman in high levels of sports, and first female NFL scout, Connie Carberg. In a moment, we are going to dive into the difficult past of our guest and how he overcame drug and alcohol addiction. He has done so much for the people that have struggled through this horrific journey. He has created a platform to educate drug and alcohol addicts and their loved ones and point people towards treatment. He is the founder of addictionhelp.com. With that, we welcome our personal favorite, Chris Carberg. Welcome to the show, my man.
It's good to be here. Thank you guys for having me on. It's a good day. It's we were talking before, it's my birthday. So and then you're going through all the, I love the warm-up video, just kind of kicking it and just seeing, as I said, lucky number 42 right now. So I'm sporting Bruce Harper. So
and Marcus Coleman.
Yeah. Marcus Coleman. Yeah, we were going through that list, right?
Well, tell us a little bit. I mean, you grew up into this Jet family. We had choices. You did not have a choice.
Yeah. No. If you, I think on Facebook, my mom posted one of the I love you, son, birthday messages to me today, and it's me in a Gastineau outfit for Halloween. I'm probably like 4 years old or something like that. Thank you. And so I mean, like it was forever. I mean, mom has taken me to training camp since I was born in March, obviously. So I was a few months, probably 3 months old. My first training camp I went to with mom, and got to just grow up around there and hang around and get to see all the different regimes that kind of came through, and ones that were different from the other ones. The most fun one, was Pete Carroll's. That was like a whole other ball game, like just that summer. But like, it's such a great family to be a part of. It's like, and you meet a Jet fan and you also, like I said, you immediately feel connected to them because that they've hurt like you have. They know that they love like you do. And it's honestly, it's a great fan base to be a part of. I mean, I no matter what, I mean, just we bleed green. And when I grew up in South Florida around Miami Dolphins fans, I remember the season, the Kotite season of the 1-15, and still wearing a jersey on Monday, even after losses, like to just prove like I'm not giving up. That was, that was not easy, but it was, that's got to be our kind of how we approach life. We gotta believe in the future and what we're gonna do, and we're gonna get there eventually. It's going to happen.
Now, just growing up, going to training camp, for as far back as you can remember, to a lot of kids, these players are larger than life figures. What was it like for you being a kid, just watching all, Gastineau and all these kind of guys just growing up?
Yeah. So Mark Gastineau is one of the people that honestly stands out to me the most because aside from my mom's involvement of finding him and being part of that selection, he was probably the sweetest person I ever met growing up. I never would have, if you had told me when I was a little kid that this is the guy who is striking fear into quarterbacks' hearts, I would not have believed you for a second. He would treat me like an equal. He would like talk to me, he would get down on my level and talk to me. But being around there, and then also like I can still remember meeting Broadway Joe on the sideline, and I was trying to learn how to throw a football, and he's telling me how to hold the laces, and I remember the L that he would say, and I was like, that's what I remembered at the time. And then later on, I'm like, oh, that's who that guy is. And I was probably 5 or something. Wow. At that time, I didn't understand, but it was you grow up around these players, and honestly, they're all so amazing. They're great to people. They treat everyone really well, and it's why you root for them. It's why you support them. And it's one of the things that makes it hard also, I think, now with a mix of sports betting and fantasy, because it's like you're good this week and I guess for all of us Jets fans, you're like good this week, you're a bum next week sometimes, but like it's hard because you meet these people and they're just incredible. So it's, growing up around it was amazing. And, my mom, just being around her, like, I didn't know that she had done anything. She never made a big deal about what she did. She never did. It took until I begged her to tell her story, kind of, because I wanted it out there and I wanted people to know the truth about, what she had accomplished and stuff like that. So, it was, we always played by the rules as a family. Like, we didn't try to, we just were glad to be there, just glad to be a part of it. And honestly, like, it's a great organization to be a part of.
No, it's amazing. I mean, what your mom did. I mean, she was a pioneer,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a testament, and your journey here. Again, it takes so much courage to come on here and share your story.
Mhm.
Now we're going to kind of go into this head first.
Good.
Can you take us onto that difficult path of your past and what you went through
Yeah.
and how you overcame it?
Yeah. So, I'm probably not I didn't think I was, or at least the prototypical
Mhm.
addict. It wasn't supposed to be me, as far as could tell.
Mhm.
We had talked about it as growing up. My dad was recovering alcoholic, and, and so those words were all like bandied around in the house. Like, those things were talked about quite often. But even with that in mind, I'm like, but it's not going to be me. And it wasn't, honestly, until, as I said, kind of like, starting in college, there were just, I had migraine headaches, and doctor prescribed some pain pills. And, one day I took two of them at the same time. And it was just like, just, I got a really bad migraine. So I just doubled up, and I felt something that I'd never felt, which was this, like, relief.
Mm.
And as a person who grows up with anxiety, or, look, I don't mean anxiety in the sense of, like, we're, a poor me thing per se. It's more like, look, my mom, you meet my mom, there's this energy that's just buzzing off of her. It's just how she is. And I would say that that's, like, in our family quite a bit. And so sometimes you just kind of want to chill. You just want to be like, okay. Um, and, so it started. So that's why I say it started out very innocently.
Mhm.
But the next thing I know is I'm experiencing life with these pills, and I'm noticing that, like, I can go anywhere and not feel this stress of something. I can talk to anybody. I can ask anybody questions. I can engage with anyone. It wasn't even like something I was doing with other people. It was private. It was like my thing. Um, but it got, it starts down this path where the painkillers, and I mean, I lucked out, to be truthful. I mean, when this happened, if I was probably 1 or 2 years later, I mean, different story entirely. It could have, because that's when there were all of these pain meds being pushed all over the place, and whether it was OxyContin or Vicodin or whatever, but it was an open world. And I kind of, the thing that happened was I found the internet. And I've loved the internet forever. It's not a surprise that I ended up going into that business per se, but, like, I saw that there was a way to do, like, these startup kind of like pharmacies online that they didn't trace anything. So you could have 10, 15, 20 prescriptions across state lines in different areas, all shipping you 300 pills at a time, not asking any questions. And it was, so that was happening at the same time as, alcoholism was kicking off, because, like most things, any normal addiction, I would say, it doesn't come alone. It brings its friends, and its friends are little, either complementary ones that help you sleep, ones that help you, to kind of deal with that. But, like, I mean, over the course of probably 3 years, I mean, it was to the point where, I mean, I didn't have much left going for me. I still remember the Super Bowl with Tio, when he had, he's injured his leg in
Mhm.
that one, and I'm half there mentally, what I remember of it. But it was uh it was not long after that, like, came down, kind of got hit and brought back down to earth, and my life got saved by this this cop who saw me, who was called in, I guess. I mean, we reconnected recently after 20 years,
Wow.
and awesome guy, Vance Foyles, his name is. Sounds like a superhero name, but he knew I was in trouble and in danger, and was like, he didn't know what exactly yet, and fully called. Not only did he call an ambulance for it, but then he ended up speaking with my parents, and I was up at college at UCF, and it was, if he hadn't made that call, I'm telling you right now, I'd be dead, because what happened was my parents got involved in the picture, and it's a good thing to remember, because my parents are, they're not helicopter parents, but my mom she has pretty good sense, and I'm just saying, she was surprised about what was going on with me. She had no real understanding of it, and so as parents, we feel terrible when we don't know someone we love is dealing with this. It's like, am I a bad parent? How did I not see this? Because we don't want to see it, is the reality. It's too painful. But they confronted me. They talk. I mean, and the truth is, like, when people talk about, like, relapse, being a part of recovery, I used to, like, scoff at that concept. But I also realized that I tried to quit quite often before I got help. And most addicts who are trying to get off a drug, they do try. But so I ended up in a hospital at the time. I went to a detox center, and the real starting point after that was rebuilding trust with everybody, because my parents could call my school and be like, "Chris, you've got a drug test in 15 minutes, go." And I'd go, and it became like a badge of honor. I couldn't wait for that call. I couldn't wait for them to call, because I knew I was clean. I knew I hadn't done anything. So, mom was also just willing to go into some uncomfortable places. She was willing to go to, like, for people who don't know, of course, you have Alcoholics Anonymous. You've got a lot of different 12-step groups, and there's a variety of ways that you can go. I was part of Narcotics Anonymous, and my mom went to my first meeting with me, and she even though she knew she might feel out of place, she wanted to be there for me and support me. And it was and of course the community is very supportive. It's the single most diverse, respectful, caring, compassionate, like, honest, though, but, like, we'll be honest with you, community in the world. And it's kind of like, I wish people in Washington and other places could take a cue from how people act in recovery, because it's like everyone drops their act, whatever it is. I've been in recovery with lots of people, of different fans of different teams, and it's like, there's something deep that connects you when you're in recovery. So that was 20 years ago. I just celebrated 20 years of sobriety, and but here's the thing. Like I said, it doesn't come alone. It comes with friends. And it took me a number of years. And I think it's actually very poignant with, like, Brandon Marshall having been on the Jets. It took me probably 15 years of sobriety to figure out, I had borderline personality disorder. And I had no clue what that was, to be honest, but I kept kind of chasing this thing and trying to figure out why did I go down this path? I mean, I had awareness of certain things. And I know Brandon Marshall has talked about being, having borderline, and so what I would say is that, like, it's been a very messy road in some ways, because you're like, no, you don't have it figured out. You actually spend a lot more time after getting sober trying to, get your life back together, because it doesn't just happen overnight, but yeah, I would say that it was really dark for a while. It was, because you're lying to everybody, you're lying, and you're breaking trust with people you love. So it's a messy thing, but I will say that, like, sports are one of those places where you can heal. Actually, you sit in a room and you watch a game, and you're not even necessarily talking always, but there's something that happens. And I mean, there's even studies that say that, like, there was a study out of Japan that, like, of like, people who watch sports have better mental health. They
Mhm.
are, like, which surprising to me. I would have guessed the opposite, knowing how I feel sometimes when I'm watching. But they
Right.
say,
Yeah.
that connection is one of the
Mm.
things that is absolutely so important. So yeah, it's been a long journey, and it's not over yet. The thing stays with you. I don't know that there's this big fight of these terminologies of like recovering and recovered. Or here's my thing: there's somebody out there who's just starting out, and if they can get the idea in their head that this is going to be a long-term process, that's going to help them stick with it. So I would rather them see me as a recovering addict, someone who is like, I'm going to be battling this thing forever. It doesn't mean that that we're even going back and forth, but I admit that it's there, and I'm like, okay. And when people come to me and I tell them I'm recovering, they're like, okay, so you don't have it all solved yet. You're not.
Mm.
It kind of takes some of the pressure off to have your life completely like figured out.
Now,
Well,
if
you
I
said
could,
something.
sorry,
uh,
go ahead, Dan.
I'm sorry. You said something interesting earlier. You had said before, you got onto the road of recovery.
Mhm.
There was a point where you tried your best to recoup, reassess, and go on a different trajectory. What were the triggers that would bring you back down and say, you know what, there really is no hope. I'm going to go down this hole all over again. Maybe that's all I know at this point. What
Yeah.
were those triggers?
So that I would say more times than not, it is it's a deep sadness to leave the drug.
Yeah.
Like you feel like, I don't know. I don't, at the time, that was probably the closest. I mean, I was in relationships. I think I had a girlfriend at the time, but I'll tell you, like, my intimacy with that drug, the way it made me feel about myself, the way it made me feel what I could do, the fear of losing that, of losing the ability to, like, go anywhere, to do anything, to say anything, and not feel that anxiety. That was the overwhelming thing. Um, so it wasn't even as much as something happening in life. It was just life didn't seem as much fun without it. And so that's the part that I notice is I would go back to it because, we say another boring day in paradise in recovery, because that's how it feels sometimes. It does feel like, oh, well, okay, my life's together. I'm not cracking up a car. I'm not like betraying my family. There's not all this kind of like energy happening. And so sometimes we mistake that energy for that excitement. It's kind of like adrenaline,
Yeah.
and you're craving it, even though it's self-destructive. So the other thing is, it's the little things. I remember first getting sober, my dad telling me, Chris, it's not going to be the huge things. Probably it's going to be, you're going to try to have to go somewhere, and you're going to have to put on a tie. You're going to try and do the tie, and you're going to you're going to pull it, and it's going to be too long. It's going to be like Trump length, like the long one, or or you're going to do it, and it's going to be like a little short one. And he's like, and you're going to start losing it, and it's not going to be, or you're going to try and button this top button, is what he would say. And he's like, that's what's going to set you off. And it's because it's like, why do any of this? This is stupid, So the triggers, the triggers can be, very, very minimal things like that, but they can also be, relationships ending, stress from work, from friends, things like that. I mean, there's a variety of things that um, can cause this kind of stuff, So I think it really has to do with the kind of going through it.
Now, is there a point He's a little frozen on my end. I don't know if you guys can see me or not.
Yeah, I see you.
Okay,
There you
all right.
are.
Yeah, I was a little frozen there for a second. Was there a point, Chris, where it went from I'm going to take 2 pills because I have a headache to I need these every day as part one, and then part two, was there like a friend or like family members or somebody that like kind of went up to you and was like, Chris, are you okay? Is something wrong or you're not being yourself? Did you ever have any of those experiences?
Could you ask the first part once more? I lost it for a second.
Sure. Was there a part where it went from I'm gonna take 2 pills because I have a bad migraine today to maybe I can't live without these, or I'm just taking them every day
Mhm.
even when I don't have a headache, where like you kind of
Yeah,
realized it was a problem, or even before you realized it was a
yeah,
problem?
yeah. So when I went from you know taking a drug to abusing and using a drug,
Right.
it became part of my life. It became kind of like there was not a day where there wasn't dozens I wasn't taking. As soon as I had probably about a few months in, you know, everybody I feel like in addiction, we're all kind of chemists. We feel like we're
Mhm.
all like our own little pharmacists, and we
Yep.
start like tinkering. We're like, I have it figured out. Like, okay,
Right.
I do 2 of these or 3 of these, and then, um, and so I mean, it's insane. I mean, the fact that I thought I understood it like that, but it became an everyday thing to the end point. Like the last time I used, I mean, it was 60 a day.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it was
Wow.
death's door, like close. I mean, 60 pain pills and um 20 Valium and alcohol, and like literally like just and now here's the weird part. At the same time, I remember going back to my apartment with my parents afterward, and I'm like thinking, oh, they're going to see the nest, because that's, I mean, that how you live is you don't
Mhm.
really like live the same way everyone else does. It's because everything is focused around the drugs. When you opened up my medicine cabinet, there were 3 giant pill bottles of Xanax that I never touched. It didn't do it for me, is my point. Like, and that's why I say it's like you build a relationship almost with the drug itself, the individual drug, to the point where even seeing that pill in that color, that shape, you're like, I don't know, your heart starts pounding the way if you saw somebody you had a crush on in middle school. That's the way you start to look at these drugs. Like it's because that's going to solve all my problems. And the second thing was, yeah, there was a couple people who kind of started to call me out. I'd say I had a couple professors in college who kind of said something, but probably the one that I remember the most is my best friend Vitor. He was my best man at my wedding, and I just remember sitting on a couch with him one time. And I looked over and he's just staring at me, and I'm going, "What?" He's like, "What are you doing to yourself?" And that was the first time anyone had ever like. I thought I looked okay. I didn't know anyone could even tell, and it wasn't until a while later that anyone, because people don't know what to say. They don't know how to speak up. It's a very
Right.
awkward thing. Um, but it was very helpful to have somebody like that, because you also know that like he cared enough to be awkward, to say something that it wasn't comfortable for him. So
Right.
that was though, you look for those moments where people are looking out for you, and when they really care about you, a lot of times it's just being that guy who says something. It may you may get a mouthful of hate from an addict
Mhm.
then, but I'm telling you, when they get sober, they remember, and they are appreciative. It's like you have to just remember, whatever you're hearing right now it's not even them.
Right.
It's them on the substance. So it's you know just don't take it personal if somebody doesn't respond the way you want them to.
It's so important to have that circle of trust, people that you can confide in. And
Hmm.
just like you're alluding to, sometimes to speak truth, you're going to get such a backlash.
Hmm.
But it's those friends that you see eye to eye with, and they look out for you the most.
Yeah.
Um, the thing is, when you're so vulnerable in that moment, how powerless do you feel? Like I know with many other addictions, for me, it was food, it was sugar and whatnot.
Yeah.
I felt powerless. Like if you talked
Mhm.
to me in October, and I just felt like I couldn't go to bed without that, what you were talking about, that
Yeah.
like that you're a chemist at that
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
whether it's drugs,
Uh-huh.
food, uh, pornography, that's
Yeah.
something else that triggers certain endorphins.
Yeah.
And you can't go to bed until you get that
Thing.
fix, that high. What At what point did you say, you know what, enough is enough?
Mhm.
I'm going to take things the right way
Yeah.
to change my life.
Yeah. We look for the moment of clarity is what we kind of call it, is that it's think of it like, it's a window that's shutting fast already. And, you're like, you gotta move while you have that moment.
Mm,
And because it's like I picture it like the monster is asleep for a little bit. Okay. So like, it's kind of like that monster in you is just, every monster, even monsters have to sleep, you know?
right.
So, the monster's sleeping and you have this realization like, if I make a run for it, I can get out of here and I can get out of this thing.
Wow.
So that's
Powerful.
how so
Very
you're like,
powerful.
you do feel captive, completely
Mhm.
captive. When people ask me like, okay, when do
Yep.
you know it's addiction versus just, I like to have a good time?
Right.
Very different things. And I always say it's the cross of, in Alcoholics Anonymous and things, the first step talks about two key defining points. And the first one is that you're powerless. And the second one is your life has become unmanageable. Now, I've met people whose lives are unmanageable, but they're not powerless. I've met people who are powerless, but their lives are not unmanageable. There's some periods of time where a person doesn't necessarily. I've met people who party, or I've watched people drink a beer, and I can't comprehend that. Like that
Right.
makes no sense to me.
Yep.
You know, I've seen a person. I've seen a person use drugs recreationally, and then nothing. Like it's like that.
Mhm.
That concept is very different. I think for the addiction brain, and so I look for those two pieces and where they kind of fit. And I'm glad you mentioned the other behavioral stuff, because the next generation, the generation that is coming up, substances are going to play a much smaller part, I think, than behavioral disorders. So you're going to have, like, if you want to know, like, if you do a search about anything addiction, and you want to know the number one searched blank addiction, it's the number one is porn addiction symptoms. That's the number one search on the internet. It's 98,000 searches a month, and then it's followed by sex addiction. Then it's followed by gambling addiction. And way down the list is good old fashioned drug abuse, like, so it's a whole new thing that we're kind of starting to see. But that powerless thing is, it's hard because it's not a matter of that I had willpower even.
Mhm.
It's that I saw an out, and somebody also helped me with that out. Like, so here's the other thing. Like, I had my parents, I saw an out, and I said, okay, I want to have a relationship with my parents. I love them. I do. Um, at that point, I was, I was stealing. I was just running up credit cards. The amount of things, the amount of surprises that they had to find out about after the fact. So at first they're happy. Okay, we got him in here. He's sober right now. And then they're scared he's going to relapse. Then they're pissed because they're finding out all the things I've done. And so there's a period of, like, I think, like, at least 12 months where there's like a grieving process for loved ones, whether it's a spouse or parents or whatever, where they're like processing what has happened here, the violation of trust. In the moment, though, they're just trying to save your life, and you
Mhm.
just got to take their hand, whoever it is. It could be someone you can't stand. My mom would say, like, Mom, if it was a Giants fan, I would take the hand. Okay, I would. That's no. But it's you just you go for it,
Right.
and you don't judge the person, because the longer you wait, the more likely it is you're gonna skip it. So it's you got to go when you have that moment when the monster's asleep.
Is there a point where you realized that that monster was asleep?
Yeah, it was once some of the lies started being told, because the shame, the monster feeds on shame. It's
Mhm.
like its face is like drenched in shame. It just gobble 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 gobble. So as the truth is coming out, with each truth, even as it hurts, and there, also, there's this thing that I did, and there's this thing, and so and so's medicine, I stole that. Blah, blah, blah. As it's happening, and I'm saying these things, the monster's getting sleepy because he's like,
Mhm.
I had enough. I'm okay. So now the shame is starting to die down. So I think the antidote to a lot of this stuff is just starting to say the words out loud to someone. And it can be a matter of confession. It can be a matter of, whatever, but that's kind of what gets you to start to say, okay, because I don't have any reason to hide then,
Mhm.
because people know there's, and that's when people, get sober, they want to tell everybody. Why? Because we've lived such freaking lies
Mhm.
for so long that just going and telling everyone that, hey, I'm not lying today, that feels good,
Right.
and so, I always tell people, like, give people a break. If they come around and they're like, you will feel, it feels giddy. You feel like, oh my gosh, like, I, so it's looking for those times where there's a real sense of like, I'm not ashamed, because the fewer lies that I have left in my arsenal,
Mhm.
that's what's going to release me the most.
Now, at the genesis of your recovery,
Mhm.
at what point did you start checking off the coping mechanisms of saying, all right, this is the strategy that I
Mhm.
have to follow? Was there a blueprint, or was it a blueprint that you were devising while you were on your way to recovery?
So I wanted to make a blueprint myself because I like control. But the
Mhm.
problem was I had control, and we already know where that went. So the first step was finding somebody who had some semblance of what I wanted, and then asking them how I can have that. And that is a vulnerable state, because you're asking someone else how do I be human? How do I
Mhm.
do this thing? Um, and so, my dad played a big role in that for me. Um, it was going to 12-step meetings. So going to 12-step meetings and listening to people, just listening. Because you don't listen to many other people besides yourself when you're in your active addiction. So I would say that was a big part of it. Then I started to notice things I like to do. And
Mhm.
here's the thing: I don't know that up until that point I knew many things that I actually liked. I thought, you know, I I liked things other people liked. And then I started, spending time in nature. I go
Mhm.
outdoors, I go hiking. And I start noticing, I'm like, huh, this feels like that thing,
Mhm.
but there's no shame attached. There's no um, embarrassment. There's no lies. It's it's a pure version of this. Okay. Then I have to watch myself, because I'll go, well, then maybe I should just live outside all the time. That's the addict mind, going like all or nothing kind of thinking.
Right.
So I'll go, well, no, 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 no. It's good for you to live indoors and to stay in your bed. And then you go hiking, and then you come home. And like, you begin to train yourself how to think and say, okay, you find the things that you like to do. Um, I mean, there are positive and healthy ways to, I mean, it's why, like, a lot of people in recovery, honestly, they spend so much time working out. Um, it's because, I mean, it gives you a great feeling.
Right.
It does, also Swedish fish, that did it for me for a while, like, because I was used to popping pills, and I had these little Swedish fish, which were not the best decision at the time, but it was better than the alternative. So that's the
Right.
other thing, finding something that's better than the alternative. Um, I would rather make a less perfect decision, and not use and not drink, not make that choice,
Mhm.
then it'd have to be perfect. Because a lot of times we do want things to be perfect, and listen, we want that so that we can fail sometimes and give us a reason to use. We set up little traps for ourselves all over the place.
Yes.
Like, well,
Yes.
okay, I guess I got my
Yep.
I put that bear trap there, but my leg is stuck in it now, so I guess I'm stuck here. I'm gonna have to use this. So I think that's the other part, is like finding the best possible, most effective decision for you in that moment that is not going to lead back to the things. There was only a couple things in my life that I was 100% sure of. I knew I wasn't going to use any drugs, any alcohol, any substance that could, and mind or mood altering in that way, um, that could be abused. That was my simple rule. Like, there were other things that later on I had to kind of work on, but I would say that those were you kind of keep life simple. And I think a lot of us go look back. I've talked to a friend of mine who I do um, a lot of work with addiction help, and we were talking about, like, you talk about it almost like the way some people talk about what high school was like. Oh, I remember the good
Mm.
old days. My first
Right.
year of sobriety was like, that was kind of like the dream, and you want to go back to there. And the funny part is, you can kind of go back by remembering the things that I just started playing frisbee golf. I never played frisbee golf. People have been telling me for 15 years, like, go play frisbee golf. I'd be like, yeah, I'll try that sometime. Well, I just tried it and I liked it. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I get to throw something at something and it's outdoors. So that's a win all around. You find these little things, and when you find them, and if they start to give you that feeling, do that all the time. Go
Yeah.
for it. Like, you know,
Mhm.
Now, you had mentioned Swedish Fish, coming off of that. Was there, like, any situations where, like, maybe you're sitting, like, in your house late at night by yourself and you're,
Mhm.
like, you're kinda thinking, like, I could call so and so and be high within an hour.
Yeah.
What did you do to, like, keep that, like, mental toughness, like, at night, specifically where you're not going hiking at,
Yeah.
10,
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night?
It's a great point. My thing was, if I was up too, I always felt like the later I was up, the worst decisions I made naturally.
Right.
So
Mhm.
one of the first things that happened in detox was kind of like getting up at 6 a.m. every morning. By doing that, I started to get more tired, and I would, of course, be like, all right, I guess I'm going to go to bed earlier.
Mhm.
Um, but when I was, when I was, and things have changed so much now. Like, then you'd have to physically go to a meeting of some kind. You'd have to find one, or you'd have to call a sponsor, somebody was helping you. Um, Now you can go online. You can do Zoom ones. You can do, like, there's a lot of different other options now that you didn't have before. So, um, but calling somebody and talking through it was very important. Um, just not letting yourself kind of start to tinker. Like, I viewed myself in some ways as like an animal that needed retraining, and so, like, I didn't trust my own mind for the first probably 3 to 6 months. I was just kind of
Mhm.
like, no, you're just gonna do this. You're gonna listen, when they put the food in the bowl, you go eat the food that's in the bowl. That's what you do, Chris. And it's back to basics. And it's really not like, I guess now that I think of it, it's not like an animal. You're a baby. It's
Mhm.
it's just you're waiting to be fed, kind of deal. And so that's where I look at this and I go, the fewer decisions you can make, um, the better. Like, limit your decision making and limit it to something that is not like, because nine times out of 10, I made the wrong decision. I would make the wrong decision. Even though I knew better, I would probably have made the wrong decision. So I limited those. I had people that I would call on. I had friends, that I knew that respected this path that I was on. And that plays a huge part. Like, like people around me did not have to stop drinking, by the way, to be my friend. They had to fully embrace what I was doing for me. But it's not their fault that I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
Right.
You know, like I've met people who can have a beer. Like I said, it's not their fault. So it's, that was the other part was, and again, 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't want to do it as much in front of me.
Right.
And it was, but that you find friends like that who support you. And they don't, again, like it's just anyone who's pressuring you to do it or say, like most of the time that's another, if there's people, places, or things that obviously are causing you to be weakened by this, that's where you got to like, just, shut it down, like, or don't be afraid to like tick them off. You can always come back a year later and explain.
Right.
It's your life right now, though. Your life is on the line every day. You're one decision away from, and especially now with fentanyl on the streets, like fentanyl. I mean, I never thought that I would yearn for the good old days of heroin.
Wow.
The concept of that, like of, where, there used to be something that was not this danger, this level of danger every single time, where you're like micrograms, like a little,
Yeah.
a
You're
little
gone.
bead of, instantly. So it's, you can't mess around, like, and unfortunately that's what happens a lot. It's a lot of times just one more time isn't going to kill me, and
Right.
it's like, it can.
The analogy that you said about the self-made bear traps, it's so accurate, because no matter the addiction, you always place certain snares deliberately.
Yeah.
So you fall back into it. And I
Yeah.
just feel that there's a constant, again, over whether it's 3 to 6 months, constant reassessments, constant reevaluations, and questioning. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
I've done this before. I failed before. Now, failure is bad. I never look at failure as something bad, something that you can learn and that you can propel forward.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask. Like, when you were faced in that moment, that split decision, what were your choices internally to say, no, I'm not doing this?
Family was at the top of it. Now, half of it is I'm a caring, loving, son and family member. Half of it's, I don't want to start from one again. And that's okay too, by the way. It can be a little bit selfish. People in recovery, like, don't be afraid to be a little, you got to be a little selfish for a little bit, just a little bit, but it's to, like, if you want to get out of this, but like, that's where I would I would think of my parents. I would think of the friends that I had, and I would think, do you really want to start to think of it from our football world? Do you want to rebuild? Do you want to rebuild a team right now, Chris? Or do you want to run it back? Like, I'm just saying, like, it's, the pain of that is, so there's the side of it, like, I don't want to hurt people I love. So use whatever you got to at that moment, I would say. But those things stood out to me as very huge. And that's also, once you've been sober and clean for a while, spending time with other people and helping them, you also don't want to let them down. You want to put up these other barriers. The only danger is, and I was talking to my daughter about this the other day. She's a very compassionate person. She's tough, but she's very, very compassionate. I said, look, you're going to see people in situations that are like fires, and you're going to want to go toward them. But it's not going to be the fire that gets you. It's going to be the smoke if you get too close. You have to be careful. Like, you gotta make sure that you are solid first. Because the compassion, again, the monster uses what it needs to get what it wants, always. And that's the part that where I go, when people tell me that, like, oh, anyone can do this drug, you won't get addicted. Like, listen, buddy, I can get addicted to blow pops. I can get addicted to subs. I can get, like, the thing is, that's how my brain works. First off, don't test me. I will show you. Second, like, it's so when I look at this stuff, I try to think of it through the lens of, like, who are the relationships. Relationships are, I know it's been said that, addiction is the opposite of like connection, and you're disconnected from everyone to a degree. So it's like making sure you have those connection points. That is a huge, like, kind of like a safety net for you.
Very true. Very true. I mean, the more I go through this, and we interview so many different individuals that have gone through addictions, and it's innumerable. It's vast. We see that it is a happy ending at the end, but that trial, that journey through fire, and once you get to the end of it, you have so much knowledge. And the best part about that is sharing it. Sharing it to the next person that's going through it, thinking that there's no hope. And that's where I commend you with your website.
Thank you.
I mean, how many people have you touched?
We've had about, since we launched it, probably about 4 million.
Wow.
4 or 5 million, I think. Yeah, it's like,
Wow.
and honestly, like, that's been our, we created one with my wife had gone through, she's the sane one out of the two of us. And so she had gone through postpartum depression, which was something like snuck up on us like crazy. So we created postpartumdepression.org. Right. That, like, I cope a lot of times by trying to, like, build these things and say, okay, how do I educate people on this stuff? Because all I keep picturing is there's somebody out there who's a kid who's going to have a parent because of it, that we're going to have there, or a parent who's going to have a kid because of it. And it's like, you keep that in mind. So yeah, it's been a lot of, like the postpartum depression site's probably been about 1 million people. And then addictionhelp.com has been about probably 4 or 5 million since the launch. And it's, it just kind of continues to grow. So it's just trying to help people understand, because a lot of times there are so many family members who want to understand it. And there's, it's a very complex thing for somebody to understand. So trying to create content that can make somebody feel, either, first off, that their loved one's not a lost cause, that, like, that there's plenty of people who have failed, so to speak. And it's like, you've got to keep getting off the mat again and again and again. And eventually something takes, it does. And so that's the other part, is working with families to give them staying power with the loved ones who they, honestly, it's painful to watch a loved one go through this again and again and again. But I keep saying, like, it's not about the knockout. It's about standing long enough. You're outlasting the opponent. That's what this whole thing is about. So if we're just looking for the perfect person who's going to get that knockout and going to win, beat addiction forever, and you did it, buddy. I'm okay with being woozy and just standing, and my feet are up, and I'm off the canvas, and I might be moving, but I'm going to outlast that other sucker, So it's like, that's the thing that I focus on, is just outlasting. Just got to keep coming back. So yeah, we love getting to kind of create, content within the addiction space. We're working on a piece right now that is specific to sports fans, and that's where I was, like, just looking earlier, just like some of the surprising statistics and things that kind of come up that are just like, like there's a 38% increase in alcohol related fatalities on Super Bowl Sunday. You know, like it's that there was actually a study into fan depression, which
Yes.
is, yeah, you know, that,
Yep.
I mean, it hits, you know, it hits. It's like, and when you mix it with like the winter and seasonal affective stuff, like,
Right.
you know, it's no joke. So, and then the sports betting side, it's, you know, it's hard because again, you know, for some people it's a game,
Right.
you know, and then for others, it's like, I will sell my family out
Mm-hmm.
to play this thing, to do this
Right.
thing. And it's just like everyone together is getting the same messaging. And it's like, there's a lot of people like me that are getting that messaging who just, you know, it's just play responsibly. Like I can't play responsibly,
No. Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. It'll like, you know, my mom, I'll mortgage your house, you know, you know, so it's the behavioral side is going to be huge, I think, in the next, you know, 10 years, but it's, we're seeing like, we're seeing a lot of, I mean, and the other part is like, you know, what we've seen in terms of domestic violence increases.
Mhm.
You know, there's a 10% burst increase that happens post like sports seasons. Like there's like all these things are, and they're not to say that like everyone's going to do this, but it's like we're looking for signs, you know, looking for
Right.
little things that like, and while look, I can't stand losing more than anything. Some games hurt worse, you know, some seasons hurt worse. And it's like, you know, trying to get ahead of some of that stuff. But yeah, we've put about 400 pages on the site currently, and now the next step is going to be, we're going to be bringing on, starting in Florida, addiction treatment facilities that meet kind of a specific criteria that myself and our co-founder, Dr. Hoffman, who is an addiction specialist, kind of view in terms of a level of quality, and trying to like create that and hopefully just focus on getting people to the right place, you know, to because I found the right place. It came from a relationship in that way. It was a family friend of my mom, who knew of this one facility, and that's how a lot of this stuff happens. So it's about finding those little relationships, and you know, but it does feel good to give back. It's but it's still heartbreaking. The day that a dear friend I grew up with in my neighborhood, he had battled addiction for years, and the same day that I got sober, you know, in terms of the day of the year, it's the day he overdosed. And it wasn't an overdose, excuse me. It was a fentanyl poisoning. It was the guy who gave it to him is in jail. And I that's what I always try and think about is, you know, I'm very grateful to be alive. I'm grateful that we get to help people, and we get to, like, you know, doesn't mean that everybody gets it on the first try. Doesn't mean, and that's the other thing, is just, we also need to be working with people when they, like, there's a whole life. I mean, I got sober at like 22 years old, you know, and I'm like, it's been 20 years of life, lots of things that would be really reasonable triggers. And it's like, so you need not only the quitting side, but like, what's next for you? You know, what's the next step? And if you stay focused there, I think you'll find a lot of ways to kind of grow yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, you said something earlier about the 38%, right after the season.
Yeah.
That's kind of the reason why we started the series, is because I've noticed personally that as soon Jet season is over, for the life of me, again, the Jet season nowadays, the past 15 years, it's over after week 3, right?
Yeah.
But once it's done, week 16, week 17, gotta be honest, there's a depression. There's like,
Yeah.
I don't get to see these guys next week. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if they're competitive or not, or they're
Mhm.
getting blown out. It's this ritual that we have,
Yeah.
sitting down
Yes,
on the couch and knowing, like for me in the morning, I get up really early, pray, go for
Yeah.
a walk,
Yeah.
do my little thing, go to church, come back. And my wife already knows. She's like,
Yeah.
kids, dad's going downstairs, give him the 4 hours. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
invested. You know, I'm
Yeah.
talking to Liam,
Completely.
some friends or whatever, and we're in it. And I'm like zoned out. Like I am
Yeah.
so out of touch with reality.
Mhm.
And I don't drink. I
Yeah.
kid you not. A couple of seltzers or an Argentinian tea, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And I can't eat during a game. I'm so
Yeah.
laser focused. And I feel like
Completely.
it's VR. I'm
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And when they score a touchdown and it really matters, like it's silly, but when Zach Wilson brought the Jets back against the Giants, I
Yeah.
hate the Giants.
Yeah.
I cannot stand the Giants. And when he made that big throw to put us into
Yes.
that field goal range, man, all my neighbors knew
Oh, yeah.
that we were about to
Yeah.
win. Season didn't go that well, just like this season, the
Yeah.
whole Aaron Rodgers thing. And it takes so much out of you, but you're willing to cope with it week after week. But when there's
Mhm.
no more football, even the Super Bowl, when it's over,
Yeah.
you could see why so many people fall into a vortex of depression
Yes.
and alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and so many other facets where they want to push the fast forward button all the way to August.
Yeah. Completely. Mhm.
Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy?
almost like I would rather go through the next 4 to 6 months in a haze
Yes.
to get there, you know. And it's because I don't think there is anything that really matches it in some ways, because it's such a unique thing. I think especially in the world today, like sports is one of those places where, I don't know, I'm not saying it's totally a pure thing, but like it is special. It's different from politics. It's different from all these other
Yeah.
things, because of how, you know, you're watching these players grow. Like we're watching players who get injured. We're watching them rehabbing. We're watching them
Right.
watching people grow and and step up. You know, it's a very, like, you almost feel like you do knew all of them. And it's that feeling, that empty feeling can be really, really tough. And it's, you know, it can be very similar to, like, you know, it can be after like a post-holiday feel, similar.
Mhm. Right.
Trying to get back to work, you know, after the
Mhm.
holidays. It's like,
Right.
you know, you need to like warm up for a few days to try and get back there mentally. But I think also it is, you know, if you don't have something in place, you know, and maybe that's why, honestly, maybe that's why I've been feeling pumped about frisbee golf. You know, I'm like,
Mm.
oh, you know, I've kind of noticed that I'm inserting it in certain places where it would be, here's the other thing. I don't know about y'all, but this season was also tough because Mom and I had a thing where like we would watch every game together, right? And everything was in like a long like night game.
Yes.
And so that our rhythm, even with this season, the rhythm was messed up a little bit.
Yes, it was.
You know, so it was like, I never thought I'd be like, oh, you know, I just want a 1 o'clock game. You know, like,
yes. Mhm.
I was like yearning for it. Like halfway through, I'm just like, oh, you know, like I just want to see the sun. You know, I
Yes.
want
It
someone
was-
to drop a pass because the sun was in their eyes.
It was messing up my circadian rhythm 100%.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yep.
goodness.
To bring it back to you a little bit here,
Yeah.
at what point did you realize that I am now strong enough to help others?
Well, that came faster than I expected, to be honest. I was under the impression that I'd have to like have years and years under my belt before I could. But because it's kind of part of the healing process, it came a lot faster. It was probably within six months of sobriety where I saw, you see somebody here. I'll tell you, it was in faster. I remember I was in detox. I was in my second or the third day there, and they bring someone else in, and he's broken up. He's crying. He's heartbroken. It's been 2 days. I've been sober for like 3 days at this point. Something in me kicked in that was like, I want to put my arm around this person. I want to help them. It's like, what do I have to give? I have 3 days, but there's this thing of, you don't have to have it all perfect. You have to be, it's like a lot of times like parenting to a degree. Being present for someone is better sometimes than being perfect for your kids, for your, so like just being there. So I would say, Liam, like when I noticed this, it wasn't really when I was solid. It became part of the solidifying process. It kind of made me solid. And so it wasn't like I had to get solid and then I could help. It was like, no, it was like part of that process, So what's cool is it means that when somebody is getting sober, they don't have to wait until they get, their degree in sobriety. They can just start. Like they see somebody in there and they say like, where you from? Like you married, you got kids, like what do you do for a living? And something in you, this compassion, it comes right out. And so I would just say it happened very quickly, and maybe I'm rare like that, but that's something that it just was like, I saw this guy and I was just like, he needs help. Like, no, like, man, I wasn't thinking of myself for the first time in a long time either. So that's the other thing that happens. When you're using drugs and alcohol, people are only pawns in my game. Everything is just playing with them. So for the first time, I don't really care when I'm in my addiction. I don't really care what anyone wants or what anyone thinks. I just want what I want and what I think. If they stand in my way, God help them. I don't care who they are. I will run them over. But when you start, you get like a little breather from that behavior, and you start this humanity starts to come out, and you start to say like, I want to help people. I want to, it's part of the healing thing. And it's, it's like making amends to a degree. It helps you to work through that. So that's why I say it's a community that like will serve one another. And you don't get to see that all the time. It's really pure. Like when it happens and it ministers to you, it helps you.
So being on like maybe the receiving end of that, like let's say parents cut the kid off or something like that, like nobody wants to talk to this guy. Just having that feeling of this person cares about me right now. This person's asking me, where I'm from, does that give you like a warm feeling being on the receiving end of that somebody, for lack of a better term, like gives a shit about me right now?
Yeah. That's, because I do think that there's a part of this, of course, that is an insecurity, and there's a lot of reasons for why addiction happens, of course, but like there is definitely something that there's some hurt there. There is definitely some level of hurt or pain. Mine started, I would say, honestly, like when I got bullied in middle school. Like I that's where the world kind of started getting, whoa, like I can't look around the corner without, assuming that there's someone there that could hurt me. So again, there's the birth of anxiety. You find these little things.
It all circles back, really.
All completely. So when somebody is in recovery, I would also say that, one of the hard parts is you will meet people who get sober, and we have this expectation that they've become good people. And, you can still be sober and not using drugs and alcohol or a substance and still be kind of a piece of crap. Like you still have a lot of work to do. So that's the other thing is you're going to see people who maybe they're kind of jerks sometimes, but you still offer a hand, because it's not my job to necessarily say that you have to have it all figured out. It's just somebody reaches out and they show a little bit of care. They say little things like, they give you phone numbers and they say, dial it, don't file it, like,
Right.
but here's the thing. I'm telling you, like, there's a lot of people who really care. They really do. Like, and one of the largest parts of their recovery is helping others and giving back. And they're doing the little stuff that nobody sees. They're setting up literature at a meeting. They're making the coffee. They're, it's these little things of service, very much, there's a lot of like religious, without being religious, there's religious elements to it in terms of the ritual. So there's a place to serve. And then, I do think that a lot of people go and they look for people that remind them of themselves. They go to find somebody and they get to be the healing touch on someone else that they wanted for themselves deep down somewhere, but they get to do it. They get to do it and they get out of their own head. But not everyone's, again, sometimes you're going to meet people and you're going to go, well, maybe this guy was more likable drunk. It's like, well, yeah, that can happen too. You will meet people who are not likable. That's not a prereq for sobriety. You don't have to be, I don't have to like you. We don't have to be best friends. I have to care about you though. Which is why, by the way, this stuff oftentimes leads to a spiritual awakening, because why do you care about these people?
Right.
That's where you start to go, well, why should I? Well, okay, now you want to have that talk, like it opens up the door for you to see the world a little different, and not just what can I get from it, but more like, I want to help. I want to help people like that. That's a very different thing. And honestly, like I do think it sends most people down that path.
It's better to give than to receive, right? And
yeah,
it's powerful, especially the person who spoke that, Christ.
Yes.
So
yeah.
it helps out to know that you really build such a great repertoire while you help someone else that's in need.
Yep. Completely.
And it doesn't matter. Like for me, again, God is no respecter of persons, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we have to have that same vision of whoever is next to me. How can I help?
Yeah.
Always, even texting someone out of the blue. How you doing? Is there anything I could do to help? And it just showcases that human nature of maybe the reason why we all created to help one another, to reach out, to network. And
that's so important. And that's what honestly, that's what fans, that's when you go back to the fan concept, like there's a, you go through a tailgate, and I'm just saying, like, there is a very, very unique sort of communal grouping thing happening there. People are giving things to people for nothing. They are welcoming them with hugs and high fives. I mean, like that is like, and you go back to it and you say, well, how could fans have better, some better mental health, than the rest? Well, they have got a tribe. They got a community they're a part of already. And anytime there's a existing community, sub communities can be very powerful. So if we've got Jets fans, right? If there's Jets fans in recovery, it's like a multiplier,
right,
of impact. So, that's one of the other cool parts is, we've seen that very successful when you find people that have things that are in common.
Yeah.
Then you have the secondary thing, which is maybe addiction, recovery, mental health, whatever it is. Now it's a multiplied thing. It's magnified in terms of its impact. So there's a lot of opportunities for those kind of things. And it's, that's the thing I love about, I think that's the thing. Like I think our fans get a bad rap sometimes because we're deeply passionate and we are like deeply wounded in some ways. But when a player or someone shows a little bit of vulnerability in a way that is genuine, I think by and large people are. When Jermaine went down with the Achilles this year, that was something. And just watching how everyone has responded to him, and when he wrote something about, was it maybe about a week ago, to the fans, and what he was asking us to do, kind of, and what the way he did it, though, I thought was like very much a leader, but I could feel the fans like heart for him,
right?
In that, that was it was a very like, tender thing. And it's, it was very different, like that from certain players. It felt like a homegrown kind of hurt, where they really saw Jermaine the person,
right?
Not just the player, but like, and it was, so there, I mean, I love when I mean, for Aaron, even this year, just like getting through the season, like that was quite a feat. And it was not easy, I'm sure. I'm sure it was, he looked far more banged up than anyone let on.
Yeah.
But I that's the thing. It's like we can mention like, it's almost like having an inside joke, like with a ton of people. And I think it's a special thing, because a lot of times where people feel left out, especially now where we've seen, self-harm and suicide rates at an all-time like high, despite the fact that we've spent the last 15 years emphasizing this more and more and more, and apparently is not, either it's working and it should be way higher, or it's not working. And so like I go back to this and I say, there's something pure and something special about watching sports and watching these players. And, the one part that does bother me about like the sports betting side is that I will only begin to see a player for you're only as good. Forget about like,
right.
You're only as good as your last season. Like you're only as good as your last snap.
Right.
And I do think players are more of a cumulative thing than that. I think we have to look at them that way. And, but yeah, it's that's the part where you go like, you see other people and there's, I mean, look, there's amongst our fans, there's probably tons of people who battle addiction, tons, so it's, the thing is like, that is a great natural place for healing to occur naturally, because you got a group of people that already care.
Right.
It's like, so it's like, I look for those opportunities all the time. Like that is one of the things that I want to do on addictionhelp.com, is like building I want to build like micro group things like that, where people can start their groups, no different than they would on certain platforms, but where they might want to be anonymous, or at least, protected from employers or things like that seeing. But I'm just saying that's a very big part of this, is that the people are looking for people who understand them.
Right. It is healing. It is.
Yeah.
I especially having that New York Jets camaraderie, whether going to games or just a get together here at the house, or even again, I don't drink. I go to a pub with my friend. It's like the cheapest entertainment that you could ever get. I'm only drinking seltzers, not hard seltzers or whatever. Some wings here and there.
Yeah.
But we're commiserating and we're just talking, and we're talking about memories. Like you were saying before, 42. I said Marcus Coleman. I'm 43. And if you can guess who I attribute 43 to, I will give you a Jets Afterburners t-shirt.
Oh my gosh.
Who do you think? I think when I turned 43, the Jets player, like, think about it. It's nowhere even near. Liam, it's before you were born.
I was gonna say I would have no
Way
idea.
before. In the chat, if you name me
Yeah,
a
just-
number 43 player, you only get 2 shots,
Mom,
and it's
I'm
not
sorry.
Mike Brim.
Oh my god.
You want me to give you a hint?
Yeah.
All right. We shouldn't have drafted him because we already had a bunch of running backs.
Oh.
But we went in and we got the guy. All right. I'm going to
Oh my
give you
gosh.
another hint.
I know.
The
Oh my god.
I think
last
your
name-
mother has it in the chat here.
Does she? Yeah.
Let me see.
I
Let me see.
believe
Wait. You got it. You got it. You nailed
Roger
it.
Vick.
Exactly.
That's what I couldn't think.
Exactly. No. Blair Thomas is 32. I wish I thought I was Blair Thomas right now. I wish I was 32. It's Roger Vick.
Roger
Crazy.
Your
Vick,
mom,
yes.
mom's always there for you.
She is. Thank you, Mom. You
Oh,
saved
my
the
goodness.
day.
He was great in college. He was awesome. He was a stud. But it is what it is. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you have these fruitful conversations when you're
Yeah.
talking to Jet fans and just football fans in general. Going to the draft in Philadelphia when we got Jamal Adams, that was such a great experience. And if anyone has never gone, you should go.
Mhm.
This year it's at Lambeau.
Yeah.
Chris, have you gone?
I haven't. No.
Oof. It's night and day. It's so different
Yeah.
than the Radio City and the Javits Center
Yeah.
ones, which I used to go every year. But this is like an enormous community, vast.
Yeah.
And you meet so many different people from, I mean, all over the country, all over the world. You see people from Ireland, from France. that
Yes. Uh-huh.
They love football. And it is so soothing. Just getting that release out. And I think that's what we need more
Yeah.
here in the States, where we could just open up to our neighbor and just talk about whatever,
Mhm.
especially something that we have in common.
Completely. No, it's so true. And it's I can't, I'm just thinking, I can't believe I didn't remember Roger Vick.
No, don't worry. You don't have it
No.
as bad as this guy. This guy thinks, dude, come on, man. Armand. It's the other way. He was 24, man.
Oh, yeah, no, it is a special, it's a special gathering. I know Mom was in the I think the Las Vegas one for the year that we did you know, I think it was Sauce and the 4, you know,
It's a
and
great draft. Oh my God.
Garrett,
that was
Breeze.
I know she was in love with, you know, I knew she had seen Jermaine at the Senior Bowl when she went there, and that was the first time she had gone back to the Senior Bowl since, or not gone back, because the last time when the Jets were there, that was when she called Gastineau to replace a player, but yeah, that was the first time going there. I think she can correct me, but yeah, it was. You get around these fans, but also like other teams. I think that a lot of times people don't understand. Like, if I see someone from most teams, if they are passionate about their team and they love it, like I love that. I'm okay with. I'm down with that. They don't have, you know. And I'd say that growing up in South Florida, there were fans who, I work with a group out of Boston actually, and one of the CEO of the firm that I work with, first thing, he's a huge Patriots fan. I'm like, are you a real Patriots fan, or are you a after 2000 Patriots fan? I'm like, because that's gonna change how I view this.
Right.
And he's like, no, I'm like cry myself to sleep as a kid Patriots fan. I'm like, okay, me too. Okay, I can understand a Jets fan version, you know, like, so there's some that, again, that commiserating where you meet somebody and it's that again, it's just, it's humanizing, and it's such a beautiful thing when you get to kind of like be around people. It's also such a great connection, you know, app, you know, again, like work, I have found, finding people who love it too, and you just share things with one another, even if you root for different teams. But all of those things are connection points, and those connection points keep us from doing things that would really harm us or harm others. Like, so if we're not connected to somebody or something, it can be really dangerous. So
If I could
it's
just give you a quick tip here, any
yeah.
Patriot fan after 2000, they're now referred to as Chiefs fans.
Yeah, that was yeah. I'm like, yeah, because I mean I remember growing up like it wasn't like the Patriots were a thing compared to, after Tom,
Yes.
Isn't
Yes.
it, like, a little strange to, like, see them as, like, a poverty franchise again?
The
It's
weird
kinda weird to me because, like, I grew up Pennington as my quarterback, like,
same
I remember
love
Curtis
Chad.
Martin and, Corbett, all-time favorite wide receiver, all-time favorite Jet, really.
Mm,
But they were always the thorn in the side, no matter, if it was Revis or the Rex
yep.
years. We beat them in the playoffs that one time, but they ruined my childhood essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
To see Tom Brady go to Tampa and then like I was actually in Tampa the day that he went down there.
Oh wow,
So
really?
and
Yeah.
the whole city was just lit up because that's the year that they Tampa won like the Stanley Cup and their baseball team was
Yeah.
on fire too. They were just like a real like city juggernaut.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of weird to like look at them now and it's like no Tom Brady, no Belichick, Gronk's out. Like they really have like no
Yeah.
stars on the team. It's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah. No, I well, that's the thing, the fear that I have is, we with Vrabel and with
Yeah.
with Drake May, like, I mean, you know, my daughter saw Drake May and she's like, is he Tom Brady's son? Because he looks like him. I'm like,
Yes. Right.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, it does.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's the big surprise. Like,
Yep.
no, I'm like, yeah, but it's a weird feeling. I mean, it's one of those things like a scary movie where you don't know if the thing is dead, and you're like, I'm just scared to get close and
Yeah.
like it's gonna pop back to life. But yeah, it's a weird feeling because I mean, when I think the nature of this that the team currently is like, I compared to what it was such a juggernaut.
Yep.
And I mean, it was like, I mean, just the heartbreak of that. And I'm
Every
glad
year, yeah.
every year.
We celebrated regular season victories against them because
Oh, yeah,
you think back to that overtime game
completely.
with Fitz in 2015.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh, I remember that. Yep.
Yep. We all remember that.
The out
Like
one
that's
to
like an all-time
Decker.
Jet moment,
Yeah.
It's like
Well, I know, right? Yeah.
and
It really makes me appreciate a lot of the
Yeah.
Rex years that the Rex
Mhm.
years that, and I know a lot of the drafting under Mangini was really solid also. Like that was,
Yep.
I mean, when you look back and you think about DeBrickashaw and about,
Ah.
I mean, you don't know what,
Mangold.
again, you don't, yeah, like that, you don't realize what you have sometimes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back and appreciate it even more. But we saw Brick this summer at training camp, and it was, it's so crazy when they're not playing and they're like slimmed down kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, that's, like, how, he wasn't like Joe Thomas, like slimmed down. He was like, but like different. It was just, it's an amazing thing for sure. But it's, that connective stuff it's like we need each other as fans. We need to, and hopefully like this, I was there. I remember working kind of like helping out during the summer as kind of like a ball boy when Aaron Glenn was there, and so it's kind of cool to see it all kind of come full circle there. So I'm very excited to see how this goes. It's going to be, I think he's gonna do a great job.
I was gonna ask you, do you have any cool Aaron Glenn stories that you could share quickly?
I'm trying to remember. I think most of mine, most of mine are like just like being in, just being kind of awestruck. Some people have that, they kind of give off that vibe about them that just, and I remember it like, and he did have that. Some of the players just have it, and it's just something that you can't put your finger on why. But I remember like, because we would go down in South Florida to a lot of times to go to the game or to the hotel where before the game when they were playing the Dolphins. I remember the pick 6 that he did. And I just, just in general, like it was he just had a coolness about him that was like, I don't know how to put my finger on it, but it was just, some of these players just have that.
The aura about them, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I remember the most, is just like, he was quiet. He was kind of like subdued. And, I just remember him having like the flappy arm kind of thing. It was like,
yeah.
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 And,
of course.
I remember he was like, I remember watching him high step, and I'm like, it's probably right around when we were like watching Dion and stuff. And,
Right.
so it was like, we have a Dion, that's what it felt like,
If anyone can do it, it's him. I mean, he was exposed to the 3-13 season, 1-15.
Yes.
So that the culture changed instantly with Bill Parcells, what discipline and accountability can do to a squad. Get into the AFC Championship game in 2 years under Bill.
For sure. Yeah.
And then seeing the Detroit Lions, man, how fast.
Oh, yeah.
People forget how horrible of a franchise.
For
They
sure.
were worse than our Jets the past 15 years. Like, they were, forget it.
Yeah.
And he saw it firsthand, how they rebuilt,
completely.
and they are powerhouses right now.
Yeah.
I honestly think we got the right guy, man. We got the right guy.
I think he's going to be I think he has everything to be a great head coach. And again, like you said, he's been in the winning situations. He's been in the situations that are really, really tough. And when there was he's been through rebuilds is the thing. So when we talk about like coaches coming in and doing rebuilds, most of them haven't been through. They themselves as players haven't been through a rebuild. It changes everything. I think when somebody can understand what a player is going through when you're doing this, I think that changes a tremendous amount, as opposed to it just being kind of like, we have a lot. The NFL is, we have a lot of different types of coaches. With our offensive coaches, I've just found that they tend to be a little bit more different. They're all, you make them head coaches, and they just kind of give off a different vibe, is all I'll say.
Yep.
But I do think it's good to have a player who can understand what the other players are going to go through while we're building. And, but yeah, there's, he's not a pretender. He's not he's an alpha for sure.
Yeah, you nailed it there. It seems that this is happening quick, this turnaround. The Aaron Rodgers decision, it came pretty quick. Now with Devontae being released, and Alan Lazard being placed on the trade block, it just showcases that we have a new regime here.
Yep.
And we need players that need to buy in. And this is no disrespect to Aaron Rodgers or whatnot, but when you have someone of his caliber, he's going to miss some time, because he's going to want to miss some time. He's been there, done that.
Yep.
Aaron Glenn is trying to change this culture.
Yeah.
And he needs his players. And now, as far as our quarterback, we have no idea who's going to be week one. I mean, you go on these Twitter spaces and you start hearing, that's it. We got no receiver. We got no running back. We got no quarterback.
Yeah.
Guys, it's March.
Yeah.
It's
it's early, and we're going to have, what is it now? 90 million in cap space.
Yeah.
And it's definitely early. I see, I like the fact that, regardless of how you feel about whether they should have gone with Aaron or not, I do think it's better to make the decision. And if you're going to make the decision, let's not linger for a while, and let's not drag things out. I think it's that part can also be, that can be a little bit of a psychological bend, for the players, because they don't know what the future is going to bring. Now they kind of have a sense of what it's not going to be. They don't know what it's going to be. They don't know what it is going to be yet, but I feel like they have a sense of what it is not going to be. And that's so I feel like that's also good for Aaron, frankly, and for Devontae. Like they have a chance to go do their thing. The only thing I can't allow is Giants and coming out with an American flag. But that would ruin me.
That would
but
suck,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would. Yeah, that
That'd be
would
rough.
be. Yeah, yeah. Get to a meeting for that one. No, it's like that one would be a rough one for sure. But no, I think that's one of the things that people are going to see a different team. But I think we really needed an alpha coach like this, who is, again, alpha gets thrown around so often. There are quiet alphas. There are alphas who don't act they're not necessarily screaming and flexing and going crazy. They can be very quiet. And I don't know. I get the sense from him that he has confidence in himself and he's seen what it takes to win. And he learned from the best, like really good
Yeah.
coach. And I think so I'm very hopeful about it. I'm looking forward to training camp this year.
We're Jet fans. We
Yes.
have to be.
Have to
without a
be.
doubt. Now,
Yep.
Chris, I want to thank you first and foremost, man, just for coming on the pod. Just your vulnerability at this point, just to showcase your story. It means the world to us, and I know that it will reach so many people. And I commend you for that, man. And thank you for everything, from your website. You have been a game changer here. So we
Thank you.
appreciate you. Chris, where can people find you on the net?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm on, Twitter, X, just at Chris Carberg, there. And then also on addictionhelp.com, and, message me there. There's lots of ways to contact me. We've got a lot coming in the next month or two. So like a lot of, kind of phase 2 things that we're building out. And so there's lots of content there for recovery-based content, resource-based content, trying to understand each drug, each type of substance, each behavior. Really easy to understand way. That's the goal, is for everyone to be able to understand it better. So yeah, but definitely spending time. Well, we've got a lot we're building this year. This is kind of the year for it. So we've got lots coming, and we're gonna get it all ready for. We'll have plenty ready in time for the season. So got a lot coming our way.
Very cool,
Yeah,
man.
I guess to wrap this up, if somebody is watching this and struggling,
Mhm.
what would your message be to them?
Well, if somebody is struggling, and if they can acknowledge that they're struggling, they are already farther ahead than they may think.
Mm.
Because when you believe that you're struggling, when you know that you are, it means you are much closer to accepting that there is a problem. And so while your struggle may feel like it's that you keep messing up, like you keep failing, more important than that is that you are understanding that there is a back and forth between inside of you going on, that there is a battle in your mind right now. And that makes somebody, honestly, like that makes somebody that much closer to getting help. If it's a substance use issue, including like alcohol, I strongly suggest, finding a good detox center. There's also we have it on our site. All of the phone numbers go to the National SAMHSA hotline, and it's we're hoping to have something that might be even better than that. But for right now, I think it does the trick. But like if it's, any of those issues, going into a detox program, just remember, you're going to hear a lot of people tell you there's one way to get sober, one way to do this. It's better to work a program and like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Mhm.
So I would say that if somebody is struggling right now, first off, you're not that far off. You're close. Because when you're in it fully and you don't believe you're struggling, that's a lot. I mean, you're much farther away. So that's a lot of times it feels more vulnerable, and you feel like a much bigger loser when you struggle than if you're like, I don't have a problem, So that's the first thing I'd say is you're closer, but it also means you're in danger. And, like the thing is like you only get so many, you're not a cat, you don't have 9 lives. So don't mess around. Like, go to detox, get some help, start going to meetings, we have ways, as I said, on addictionhelp.com to contact myself, to contact Dr. Hoffman. We answer every question, every email ourselves. And we, if we don't know somebody, we will ask and find somebody in your area to help you. So that's the thing is just reach out. Don't be afraid to say it. You're not a loser.
You slayed it, man.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
Heck yeah. Definitely. You're always more than welcome to come on during Jet season, draft show, whatever the case is. I mean,
I love it. It's so great to be here, guys. Thank you so much.
We're going to have a honoring the veterans show next Thursday. So definitely feel free, if you know anyone that has served, definitely share the channel with them. We would love to hear their story. Sure. But with that being said, Chris, thank you from the bottom of our hearts, man. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing story.
It's great to be here. Thanks guys for the opportunity.
Chris.
Thank you.
Got it. Go Jets.
Yes. Go Jets.
Quarterback, Ken O'Brien of California Davis. Just 14 that first time, now going long. They got a wide open man, and he makes the catch. It's Braylon Edwards taking off. Braylon Edwards will take it home for the touchdown. 80.
First down in San Diego territory at the 47-yard line. Big draw. And Pennington going for 6. Deep down the field, and it's caught by Santana Moss.